All right, before we get started assembling the new dust collector, let me show you what we're replacing here. This is a Jet, I think it's a 2 horsepower blower, and I installed it in this cabinet because originally I was going to do what Frank Howarth does. Now, if you're not watching Frank Howarth on YouTube, you should. He's an incredibly creative guy. He built a plywood cabinet to collect the sawdust instead of a cyclone. And I thought, hey, that'll save me a bunch of money. I won't have to buy a cyclone. Let's give it a try. So I built it and it worked great. But the problem is once I filled it up and I had to shovel out all that sawdust, I was like, oh, hell no, I'm not doing this again. I just want to bag it, pull it out, and get back to work and not have to shovel out all the sawdust. So I put the filter bag back on with the center rim and then attached a plastic bag to bag it. It's not very efficient, so I'm pretty excited to get my dust collection upgraded today. I feel like someone heated this up on the dashboard of their car to bend it instead of around like a vacuum former or something, because this is not going together very cleanly. All right, so the air swirls around here and then it comes down here and comes through here to the filters to be filtered before it enters the shop. So sounds good, right? How much unfiltered air is going to come out of this right here, this gap? And there's another gap on the bottom, not quite as big down here. Yeah, I'm just not impressed with the build quality of this. Now the instructions do say to caulk that joint, but that's pretty big caulk joint. That's like almost 3/8 of an inch gap right there. So yeah, I don't know that that's going to work out too well. All right, so here's how I think I'm going to try to fix this little debacle here. I'm going to heat it up with the heat gun and then push it up in position, probably not with my hand because I don't want to burn myself, but maybe a block of wood or something. And then have some canned air here. And when you spray canned air upside down, the compressed condensation, I guess, comes out almost frozen, and so that should cool this off really quick and hopefully seize it in place in an operable manner. So I'm going to give that a try here. All right, well that worked to get it above the flange there. I got a little hot spot right there, so it's got a little bubble in it now, but I can heat it back up and then try to push that down, but I think I'm just going to leave well enough alone there, and it's tight enough now that I can get a caulk bead on there. But it's pretty crappy to have to do such an extensive thing to get your $4,000 blower to work. Big fatty bead should keep it sealed up, I think. This thing is so oblong and gross looking, and just this weird overlapping seam here fits really sloppily over this. It just really kind of goes against my grain of perfection in my furniture that I'm assembling something that has such low tolerances. All right, so the instructions say to screw this chute on here with these screws. The challenge I'm having is that this is in the way, or this doesn't come out far enough. So I'm trying to screw it in, even with the stubbiest screwdriver I have, I can't get direct purchase on it because these pre-drilled holes are drilled in straight and not at an angle to where you can get a direct purchase on the head of the screw there. So even with the impact driver, it's just spinning and starting to strip out the head of that screw instead of driving it in. So it's kind of a bad design there. Basically, I'm going to just re-drill this hole at an angle. All right, so they have some pre-drilled holes in here to put screws in to screw this blower housing to the cyclone. And they sent a standard drywall screw with it to attach that. Now, I'm not really excited about using a drywall screws because it has that tapered head, so you really require a countersink for the head to really get a good purchase down on the material to hold well. And these aren't countersunk, and I don't really want to go through their pre-drilled holes and countersink them all because I think that's going to diminish the integrity of the MDF because this blue stuff is all MDF. All right, the lav mic batteries either died or the Clearview Cyclone gods are trying to get me to stop complaining about their product. But what I'm trying to say here is I switched out those crappy drywall screws with a tapered head for more of a panhead style pocket hole screw that has a wide flange on the top that should hold this together more securely. I think that's a much more appropriate screw than a drywall screw, at least for this application. All right, before attaching the top housing to the cyclone itself, the top housing has the air filter that comes off, and I want to try to conserve as much space as possible, so I'm doing a dry run here to turn that air filter back to the wall as far as I can with a little bit of space. I don't want it to be up against the wall. I want to be able to service it, but just doing a dry run so I can turn that as close to the wall as I can get, but still have that intake right here pointing parallel to the wall. So now that I'm happy with it, I'm going to screw it all together. All right, I really wanted to install these clips while I was on the ground here so that way I could just lift this up into place and then spin it around to grab it and hold it up. But it's no longer that easy of an operation because no matter how I spin these clips or position it, it is always overhanging this lip here. So this is going to be kind of a little bit more of a pain to get installed. It would have been way better if they would have mounted it back here so you have plenty of clearance and then able to rotate that clip around when you're ready and get it in position. All right, mount crossbar to studs of wall using a minimum of 5/16 by 2-inch long lag bolts not included. All right, this is my buddy Frank. He also has a YouTube channel. If you are into camping gear, hunting gear, electronic gear, any kind of gear, that's what his channel is about. So definitely go check it out. I will put a link somewhere in the description below. All right, thanks, man. All right, so my helper went home from helping me put that up there. So I'm gonna have to put this up here by myself. So I'm gonna build a little spacer here out of the cardboard box. So I'm just gonna measure from the face of this to this. And this thing is sitting on the floor and we got 49 3/4 inches. So I'm gonna cut my cardboard spacer at 49 3/4 inches, slide it in here, set this on top, and hopefully that'll hold it up there for me so I can put these little brackets in there. And like I mentioned before, these little brackets, you can't just have them already installed and then flip them over there because it's just a bad design. You got to screw them in after the fact. So let's get this cardboard cut. All right, so 49 3/4. All right, so now I just need to tighten those guys down, make sure it's level. We should be pretty good to go. It's a heavy motor. All right. Oh look, a new flat surface to put stuff on. All right, well, I'm not impressed with how they want me to attach this filter stack to the cyclone itself. They want me to use 3 drywall screws to screw through that MDF into the top of the filter and then caulk around it. Well, to me, filters are consumables that need to be replaced from time to time. The more sawdust this thing filters, the shorter the life is going to be, and at some point I'm going to need to take it off and either clean it to get it back to a better performance or replace it. And I don't know how busy your shop is, but in my shop I think that's going to have to happen fairly frequently. So to have to cut the silicone off every single time and then re-silicone it on there, this thing is going to get gooped up, and the housing up there is going to get gooped up, and it's just going to be a flippin' disgusting disaster. I feel like this is just a terrible cop-out from the engineering department that they were like, well, we don't really have a good way to attach this filter, so let's just glue it on there with some silicone and some drywall screws. It's not a very elegant solution. So I think I'm going to try to come up with something a little bit better than that. I think my 6th grade science project self could come up with a better solution than that. So we got these threaded J-bolts, and at the top of the filter stack, this piece of metal is pretty rigid and there's space between the cleats. So this J-bolt will hook into there like this, onto that metal bracket, onto that metal rim. All right, and then we made this little metal bracket, drilled some holes in it, and this will overlap the top of that blue flange. So the J-bolt will go through here and hook into the top of the filter stack, and then once we tighten it down, we should be able to tighten it down nice and tight to snug it up against some weather stripping. So instead of caulking, I got this caulk cord. It's kind of like a plumber's putty. So it's squishy and flexible, and I think if I wrap this around the top and then squish this together with the J-bolts, we should have a nice airtight seal, and I shouldn't have fine particulates blowing out that crack, and I won't have to use any caulk. And this guy is removable, so I can just peel it off when I want to change out the filter stack. All right, so for the bottom cleanout box, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to drill a hole through here, slide the J-bolt down. This will hook onto that metal rim of the filter and tighten it down, and I'll also put that same flexible putty around the rim here. I'm going to drill an oversized hole so I have some wiggle room. All right, so I'm going to screw this bracket into place just so it doesn't move. So all they had to do was make this about 1 inch wider in diameter, maybe 2 inches, with 4 holes so you could put a J-bolt in here. And now that I'm thinking about even further, a toggle latch would be an even more elegant solution. I looked at ordering those, and those are about a week out. So I'm just going to make these J-bolts work because I need to get back to making money, because this little adventure has costed me quite a lot of money, not just in buying this, but in my time. All right, so to hold this up against that while I attach it, I need to figure out a shim, and I also need to put my putty down there. But let's measure this distance here and find some blocks of wood that I can stack up there so I can put it all on the floor and push this up against that pretty tight. All right, so I need 6.5 inches. That's what she said. All right, so it's installed with the J-hooks and the putty, so we'll see if this works or if I end up having to caulk it like they like their solution is. So next, we're going to move on to upgrading the barrel. Doing well today, just spilled coffee down the front of my shirt. I'm sure you've filled up a trash bag inside of a can full of sawdust and then try to pull that bag out. And of course it creates a suction and it's hard to get out. So to solve that, I have some leftover pieces of conduit that I'm just gonna cut at an angle and tape to the side of the can. So when I go to pull this big, huge 55-gallon bag of sawdust out, that it breaks the suction and makes it easier to pull that heavy bag out. All right, so when it sits on the bottom of the barrel, this way it won't be sealed off like that. It'll have room to breathe. All right, I cut it an inch down a little bit so it won't interfere with the lid, and I'm just gonna tape it in place here. All right, so now I want to bag my sawdust so I can just set it out on the curb. I don't have a big dumpster here just to pour this barrel in, and it's not going to fit in your household trash can, especially since the start of projects, when I start a new project, I'll fill this thing probably 2 or 3 times in a single day. So I'd rather just set the bags out on the curb. Now there's one problem with that. When you attach it to this thing, and turn it on, the dust collector creates a suction. It's going to pull this bag up inside the cyclone. I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen. So I'm going to build a thing to go inside here to prevent the bag from getting sucked up, but also allow me just to pull it out when it's time to change the bag. All right, before I weld this in a circle, I want to make sure it fits in around my breathing tubes here. So see if I can curl it up here and get it in there. Try with some clamps here. All right, how to get more tips for the welder. I wish these guys came in like a Pez style dispenser, so you can just feed them out as you go, because once you open this package, I got to put them in a secondary container or they're just going to be scattered all over the shop, which will probably be the latter. All right, so I ran the dust collector through its paces. I used pretty much every machine in the shop here, from big sawdust down all the way down to super fine sawdust from the drum sander. And the insert that I put in here seems to be working out really well. There was a tear in the bag, so I don't know if that was just me tearing it as I put it in, because this is a really thin plastic, or if the insert tore it. So I'm going to do a little testing and pay attention as I go here to see if it tears in the same spot every time, and then maybe that's a rough spot on my insert that I need to address. Maybe put some tubing around the edges to protect it from ripping the bag. Now, the dust collector, even though I'm dissatisfied with the build quality, it is sucking dust adequately in the shop. I don't have a frame of reference to know if it's sucking dust better than any other dust collector, because my previous dust collector was homemade. But I will say that my solution using the J-hooks to attach the filter stack to the top of the unit and this bottom dealy mabob with the putty is working fantastic. There's no need to goop up your system with caulk. And I'm not sure how much fine dust this filter ran. I filled up one drum, so I'm going to blow with my air hose air into this stack before I start running the next barrel to see how much dust settles down here, because I'm pretty sure that these guys are going to get clogged faster than you think especially if you're like me in your shop every day. All right, so I went around with my air hose and blew through here to blow out the dust, any kind of dust that's caked on the inside of this filter, and then I let it settle to the bottom for a few minutes, so all that down there is sawdust. So if you shine a light through there, that is all the fine dust. So you're still gonna have a bunch of fines in there, which reiterates my whole point about this is bad engineering to caulk this, because these filters get caked pretty fast. So yes, I can blow it out with the air hose a bunch of times, but at some point that's not gonna work very well, and I'm gonna have to replace it or take it down to do a more thorough cleaning to keep the system running at optimum performance. So yeah, there you go. That I'm gonna take this cap off and suck that out with the vacuum and then get back to work. That cap is a bad design as well. Eventually trying to line up the holes to screw the cap back on, you're going to turn that flange into Swiss cheese. So it's just a bad design. Clearview, not recommended.